Welcome Kitsap County. This is Stephanie Dupuy with Dupuy Team at Keller Williams West Sound in Silverdale, Washington. And today we're going to talk about something we're seeing out in the field with negotiations and the fundamental reason that we are all in transactions together. First, let's go to the stats. Today's weekly, or this week's weekly market stats. As you're seeing, our new listings are down just a bit, just about 10 listings per week. So we saw this trend starting last week, and as we all know, it's going to affect our total residential numbers. So they're holding steady right now. However, I wouldn't be surprised if we started to, if the listings continue to drop off, we're going to see a lower housing inventory in Kitsap County, which I think we're getting pretty good at this because we've been hanging out with a low housing inventory for several years now. So that's no big, although it'd be nice to have a normal one. Okay, back on market, you know, these are high numbers in my opinion. So is list price reduced at 75. I'm watching these because these tend to signal to me that we have over-eager sellers and over-eager buyers. Okay, so these are buyers and sellers who have too high of expectations for the market. A seller with too high of expectation might think that their property is worth more than the market allows, or the seller thinks that the property doesn't need to be repaired or fixed up. So that's an over-eager seller. Over-eager buyer is a buyer who thinks maybe that the seller needs to fix up the property more than the market will allow. For example, maybe there's an outlet that has a neutral ground that's a really easy fix typically, and the buyer wants the house rewired. Exaggerated example, but that's an example. Another example is maybe the caulking around the window, the window needs to be recaulked, and the buyer, is demanding that the seller recaulk the window. And message to buyers in this market: YouTube caulking a window, go to Lowe's, welcome to home ownership, learn to caulk your windows. You dig? So that's what these two columns are about right now. When you have expectations that are out of alignment with the market, okay, you're gonna fall out of contract because the other party is they're not gonna cater to your demands, and they're gonna go back on market. And so we have high numbers in the back on market. If you're a seller with unreasonable demands or expectations of the market, you're gonna have to reduce your price until people will either accept the price for what you're providing on the market, or maybe your price is too high and you finally get down into the market price range. Okay, so oftentimes we'll see list. This is big. We rarely see list price increase. We're seeing that right now because people will go under contract. Listings are going under contract, and then they fall out and they realize they could have gotten a higher price because they may have received multiple offers. Listing pendings are still very high right now. This is great. 96 sold. So there's a gap here, and it might be found up in this area. Although the math isn't adding up, so I'm kind of curious about that myself. We're talking about it right for the video. Days on market still 31, and so that's the report, the Kitsap Weekly Report. Something we're seeing this week, and we've been seeing this for a while, is we have high numbers here on the back on market and the list price reduced, and that has a lot to do with, like we're seeing, unrealistic expectations on either the selling side or the buying side. Fundamentally, when you're in a transaction, you have a willing seller and a willing buyer, and they're starting on pretend this is a football field, and our goal is for everybody to come together and to get to the same place on the football field, okay, which is closing. And so in order to do that, everybody slowly comes to agreement and gives and takes until you come to the same place. And so a couple things have to happen. People need to be fair, they need to be reasonable, and they need to see where the other party's coming from. And what prevents this often are expectations that are out of alignment with reality, okay? A fantasy of what negotiation is. Negotiation is give and take. You're both starting in different places, and you need to inch towards each other until you have a common agreement. And what negotiation isn't is a grab all, where one party takes everything and runs with the loot. So if you're entering into a transaction, or maybe entering into a real estate transaction or some other transaction right now, remember this. It's coming to agreement in the middle. See the other person's side, know where you want to end up, and know where your limits are. What's your ideal situation and what's your absolute limit? What won't you do? Know what your boundaries are before you enter in that negotiation. All right. If you enjoyed this, please leave a comment below. Share this video with your friends and family. Like us on Facebook at Bremerton Real Estate. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Again, this is Stephanie Dupuy with Dupuy Team at Keller Williams, West Sound, and Silverdale.